Welcome to this edition of City Life, and I've got to tell you right at the start, the mighty Totara has fallen. Yes, Kanita Knight has come down with the dreaded lurg, so you're going to have to put up with Pete Smith for today. But we've got a full program, which is great. Rebecca Jewell is here from Youthtown, and she's back on that program. New Zealand AIDS Foundation are with us. We talk health and fitness with Bevan Isles, and John Hunter will round out the show about what's on at the movies. But we're going to start right at the beginning. We're going to talk to Anthony Goff from Hereford Holdings. Firstly, Anthony, thank you, but your involvement in Restart 2009-10-11, what's your involvement?
Well, first of all, I'm chairman of Central City Business Association. I also own a lot of property in that Restart area sort of typically known as the Strip, which we've rebranded as the Terrace, all those bars along there. We own those, and we're expecting those to be reopened by the end of October for show week and Christmas trading. So that'll be really good. A lot of work's got to be done there. Events
of last Monday, is that still on the timetable?
Yes, they don't seem to have disturbed Cashel Street and Oxford Terrace. Have disturbed a lot of other places in town, a lot of damage in the centre of the city. The whole area's been locked down, so all the contractors that were working have been chased out of town. Their passes revoked. There's only 2 buildings being demolished at the moment within the red zone.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell me, those people that are operating the bars and whatnot on the terrace, they're very keen to get back into action.
Extremely keen, yes. We need to be able to get them in so that they can actually do some refits within their place, because obviously there's been a lot of damage internally, a lot of damage externally. We're at the moment doing full engineering assessments, and then we submit those to the insurance company. They give the tick or whatever's necessary, and we rush in with rows of contractors to repair those buildings.
How's access for you personally?
Terrible. I've had 3 official visits within the red zone. We won't talk about the unofficial ones. At the moment I've got a 1-month pass pending, sitting there waiting for an application so I can get into these buildings.
A lot of gossip and rumour going around, Anthony. I'm sure you've heard of it as well. Probably you've caused probably some of it, to feed it. Yeah. But tell me, the proposal when the rebuild happens, height restrictions, what are they talking?
Well, there's a lot of gossip, but there's nothing firm out there. I actually think people will get over it. To me, I don't see a problem with going to 10 stories. The actual building height is actually only 5 or 6 stories is your plot ratio. So if you're going to build higher than that, you've actually got to do step backs or podiums and build a smaller footprint. So our actual plot ratio is only 6-to-1 in the centre city.
As an owner-landlord, what's your thoughts regards if an entire block is demolished, of a group of owners and landlords got together and said, we will develop this site? Do you think that'll happen?
I think it will in some cases, yes. I'm currently talking to, there's 2 different areas. One is around the City Mall. Like, I have a meeting with Nick Hunt this afternoon, and he owns a substantial part of the block which runs from Colombo Street to Oxford Terrace. So between him and myself and my brother, we have probably 80% of that block. So we're talking actively together. There's another one, the Poplars Apartment Hotel. I'm talking to both my neighbours either side, because all our buildings are going to come down. That's on the corner of Madras and Chester Street East.
So when we look at land values, to make it more viable, is it better with numbers so that you get a bigger piece of dirt to deal with?
Possibly, but you also get a great deal of landscaping, and you can actually make it so that you perhaps have 1 car parking zone rather than 3 different or 4 different ones. So those are the sort of...
But then one of the owners would have to give up the right to build on there if it's going to be just an open space, wouldn't they?
Well, it's possible that you combine all your things and create one company.
Yeah.
You have shareholding that's representative of your original holding.
Because you've been in it a long time, and this has really got to exercise your mind where to from here, doesn't it?
Yes, but I always say, hey, when one door closes, another one opens. This is a land of opportunities, and there's some fantastic opportunities.
I think it's just going to be absolutely wonderful. I really do. Potentially what could happen. Let's have a look at some of the photos you brought in, though, mate, because it's fascinating having a look at this.
Right. So, first of all, we'll have a look at, if we can see these photos. Right, you'll see this little house here. This is Shan's Emporium, which I showed a couple of weeks ago. We own that. It was built in 1851, and it looks pretty good, okay. It looks okay, but the unfortunate thing is that, in fact, Sarah gave us notice to either demolish, they would demolish or make good. And that's the sort of worrying thing. You've always just got to be on your toes. We want to get in and repair it, but I haven't got my pass yet. It's a bit hard to go and repair it when you don't have a pass. But it's safe, folks. It's not coming down. Just thought I'd show you. This is Cashel Street, straight after the earthquake. You'll see there's 3 buildings there. The middle one used to be 3 stories and the top fell off it. A person died either side of that and 2 on the street. That's Trotadero Bakeries, the faraway one. Those should be coming down next week. So, and this is actually what they look like right now. So it's been tidied up on the road. This is what the back area looks like. See how there was 3 stories? You can see the cantilevered roof that sort of swung around up the top there. So that's the sort of thing we're having to deal with. I just thought I'd show you this. This is further down Cashel Street. This is one of the only 2 demolitions happening in the City Mall.
Just on that, Anthony, it's interesting too, though, isn't it, that Whitcoulls building got very badly smacked way back in September.
Correct. And then, as you can see, the side of Whitcoulls up there, it's totally fallen away inside. And the left of us there, that's the Weekly Press building. That's all coming down right at this moment. So it's one of the only 2 demolitions happening in the red zone right at this moment. So there'll be a big clearance in City Mall, Cashel Street. This building's an interesting one. If you look in the centre of the photo, that's actually the Harcourt's Grenadier building. If you look on the right of it, you'll see it's all collapsed, it's fallen down. That collapsed on Monday from the earthquake. And everything you see in that photo, including the building on the left, the glass one on the right, perhaps not the toilet in the front, but everything else will be demolished, including that tall building behind. So we'll see very few buildings between Latimer Square and the Avon River on Madras Street. There'll be only 2 small 2-storey buildings left on the west side and 1 house on the right side. Otherwise, everything will go. So there'll be big areas of the city that will be flat. Now, this is a bit of a picture of what we could have in the City Mall. We're looking, this is on our land, right behind the terrace bars and restaurants, and Cashel Street's on the right. We're looking at creating what you might call greenhouses, and they'll be very light and airy, but double-skinned, air-conditioned. They'll look fantastic, and this is an incubation for retailing. And then on the business side, oh, I've just lost all those, haven't I? Here we go. This picture here, this is actually showing the construction of the Westpac Business Park that's happening beside the ASB Arena. And if you see, this is a huge structure, 40 metres wide. I think it's about 100 metres long. And inside that will be offices for about 5 years, where is, again, a holding pattern for people.
Just on that, Anthony, what style of tenant do you see going in there?
Small businesses. So people who have perhaps got half a dozen people, they're going to actually build...
Not retail?
No, not retail at all. That's just business parks.
Right.
So they will be actually building inside that building separate offices, so you won't actually see that structure when you go inside at all. From
your point of view, and we've got to wind up, but from your point of view, you'd love to see those people come back into the city at some stage, wouldn't
Yes, and I think they will.
Yeah.
I'm ever so hopeful. We'll be in there. We'll be making sure it all happens.
What a great positive note. Now I'd like to talk to Rebecca Jewell, but for you out there that are old enough to remember Boys Town in Auckland? It was a huge organisation. Well, it's now rebranded itself and developed hugely now into Youth Town. And you are national now,
yes,
Rebecca.
We are, that's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've got centres all around the country, about altogether about 6 or 7, but we've got in the South Island, we do work in Oamaru, and we also do work in Greymouth, and now we're here in Christchurch.
Now, I called it Boys Town because I'm old, but I presume it's co-ed now, is it?
Yes, absolutely. It has been for quite a long time. Yeah.
Great. OK, what's the bigger picture for now? What are we trying to do?
Right. Now, what we're doing at the moment with our Christchurch-based activities is we are running activities and programs for young people down here, and we're working a lot around schools who are sharing school sites, so with Linwood College and Cashmere. But the other big project we're working on is our Break from the Quake camps, and so they are running in the July school holidays, and what we're going to be doing is sending 500 young people from Christchurch up to Auckland for a school holiday camp experience. Yeah.
Great. And what form will that take?
Well, we're going to send up...
just shopping in Queen Street?
No, yes, just going to dress smart. So we're going to send up 2 groups, 2 age groups, sorry, so 10 to 13-year-olds and 14 to 17-year-olds. So for the older 14 to 17-year-olds, their camp experience will be based on sort of outdoor pursuits type activities. So they get to go to either Great Barrier Island for a week or to Tongariro National Park.
So we're talking camp, am I right, tent, canvas, am I thinking the right thing?
No, because it's going to be July, so it's going to be quite cold and probably a bit wet in Auckland.
So where will they stay? How are they
well, we've got got different campsites, so they'll be housed in, like cabins and those kind of things. If they go on those OPC camps to Tongariro and Great Barrier.
So that's one group. The other group?
Yep. So the other group is Auckland-based.
Yes.
So they'll stay. Again, we've got some really nice accommodation that they'll be staying in, and they get to sort of do the Auckland thing. So they get to go to the Sky Tower and Rainbow's End and the zoo and all that kind of stuff.
Rebecca, how do you select the 500? How does that happen?
That's a good question. It's going to be difficult.
People say that, yeah.
So we've got two criteria that they need to fit into, either one of those two criteria. So the first is called time out, and that's for young people who just really need some time out and a break from Christchurch. So maybe they're struggling a bit to cope with all the earthquakes. Maybe mum and dad have lost a house. Maybe they've lost their jobs. Something's going on there that's a bit traumatic, and they need a bit of a break. So that's time out. And then the other criteria is community contribution. So that's for young people who maybe come up as leaders after the earthquake, and they might have volunteered in their local church, or they may have fetched water for elderly people on their street.
The liquefaction shovelers.
They may have been
yeah.
shoveling, and even since Monday, more liquefaction shoveling to be done.
Yeah.
So
So how do you find them?
How do we find them?
The kids. Yeah.
Well, we don't promotion like this, but also we're working quite closely with some schools as well, and we're working closely with community organisations to get the word out there.
How are they holding up, Rebecca, the kids? Seriously?
Kids, they're really resilient. Young people really are resilient, but they've been through a lot since September.
A lot of them have had their lives turned on their heads, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah, and not just say things like maybe losing a loved one, but just having to maybe change schools,
just
move
general
house.
disruption, isn't it?
Yeah,
their life is different.
Yeah, it is different, and some people cope quite well, and others not so much. So,
how do we fund this?
Well, we've got a few different funding streams with Youth Town. So we have a gaming trust, and we also have a property trust, and we have a lot of donations. And for the camp, we've been particularly lucky in having quite a lot of really good sponsors come on board and help us out. So Air New Zealand have really come to the party and gave us good price on flights, and Telecom have given us $500 $20 phone cards so young people can phone home when they go on camp. And everyone we've approached in Auckland to tell them what we're doing have been really supportive.
For a lot of them, it will be a totally different experience, won't it?
Yep.
Some will never have been to Auckland.
Absolutely, yeah. Some might never have been on a plane.
Correct.
So that's what
So
we're
who
really
goes
looking
with
at.
them?
Well, we've got all our Youth Town staff and qualified instructors on the camps up in Auckland, but we are taking teachers and youth leaders from Christchurch. So, if schools nominate, a group of young people, then hopefully we'll be able to take a teacher as well to go along and just provide that care and support and, look after
One
the
thing you
kids.
do find as you become an older parent, you lose track of when the jolly holidays are. When are they?
They start on the 18th of July.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
So 2 weeks, that's a Monday, so we've got 2 weeks.
Wonderful experience and opportunity for them, isn't it?
Yep, it really is. It's
What do
really
they have to do when they come back? Do they have to tell people about it?
Of course, they have to tell people about it. They have to tell people about how much fun they had, and But there's no certain thing they have to do. But what they have to do is have fun. That's the main
Do you
thing.
need more now? More kids?
Yeah, we've
How do they
always
get in
got
touch?
space for more. So the best thing to do would be to go to our website, and you can download an application form there.
Give us the website.
It's www.youthtown.org.
All one word? Right.
.org.nz. Yep, and on the front page there's a tab and it says paperwork, and you can click on that, and then you'll go through and there's an application form that you can download. Yeah.
Can 60-year-olds qualify? I need a quake. I'd like a quake break.
I know, me too.
Are you going?
I probably will be actually.
Oh,
yeah.
here we go. Yeah, job for the boys. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
It's a wonderful opportunity for them. And boy, when you look at the disruptive lives, they've seen more probably than they should have ever seen in their lives. They just need the break. Don't they?
Absolutely, yeah.
And aren't Aucklanders real good to us? No, they really are. They've embraced us in so many areas, haven't they?
It's hard for us Cantabrians to admit that sometimes. It gets stuck in the old throat, but people are really, really supportive around the country. And everyone just wants the young people to come up to Auckland and have an excellent time, have some fun, forget about their troubles for a week or so.
Tell you what, we're not allowed to do this, but I'm going to do it. I want a couple of kids to come in and talk to me after they've done it.
Yeah, no problem. That would be an awesome idea. That's an excellent idea.
Okay. Rebecca Jewell, wonderful, wonderful work, and for the 500 lucky kids that are able to get to Auckland and just get out for a little bit. I think you do wonderful work. We're going to take a break. Be back shortly. Welcome back to City Life. Now, as part of our business segment, Jeff Morton caught up with Peter from Terra Viva Home and Garden. They're going to talk about strawberries and garlic.
It's the middle of June and you don't normally think about strawberries and cream. But to prepare those strawberries, you've got to take a trip to Terra Viva Home and Gardens and learn all about planting. With me today I've got Peter. Hello Peter.
Good morning Jeff, how are you?
Very well.
Good.
Now, to prepare those strawberries for growing, what's the procedure?
Well, strawberries are what we call gross feeders. The success with strawberries is in the preparation of the soil. They need really good, well-composted, rich soil, and during the season they need regular feeding. Producing all those strawberries does require energy, so feed them up and you'll get plenty of strawberries. Before you plant, just dig some compost into the soil. That'll make them grow fast, and if you're limited for space, you don't have to grow them in the ground. You can either grow them in strawberry mix, and you can just get a bag, like these bags here, lie it on its side, cut some holes in it, and you can get 6 strawberry plants into a bag. That way you can save space. And the other thing you can do is grow them in a bucket. You must have holes in the bottom of the bucket for drainage, obviously, but you fill the bucket with strawberry mix. You'll need a 10-litre bucket. Plant them around the edge of the bucket, say 4 plants, and they'll trail nicely over the side. That means you don't have to protect them from the dirt that you'd get when you were growing them on the ground. So buckets are good, strawberry mix bags are good. If you do grow them on the ground, you should put some straw or polythene just beside the plants so you don't get dirt on the strawberries themselves. You don't want to be eating dirt.
So they don't like wet, cold feet?
No, drainage for strawberries is really good. Water is important. They need water because strawberries, the fruit, are quite moist obviously, so you do need water. You need lots of sun. Sun is really important. They don't get a lot of disease, so you don't have to worry about spraying or anything like that. All you need is the sun, and you do need to protect them from birds in the summer, or you'll be feeding the birds and not yourself. So
right, so when we've planted them, the important thing is you emphasise the strawberry mix. What's in that strawberry mix?
Well, the strawberry mix has got 2 types of fertiliser in it. It's got an initial start-up fertiliser, which is for when they're first planted. That'll get them off to a quick start. Then it's got a longer-term fertiliser, which will keep them growing during the season. So the mix is specifically formulated for strawberries.
Right, so Peter, we've planted our strawberries, now we need our garlic and also our shallots.
That's right.
We don't plant them like onions. What's the difference?
The difference with these is that you plant them 5 centimetres deep and 5 centimetres apart. With the shallots you need just the neck of the plant, and this is, you can see on the packet here, that's the neck there. You need that just poking up through the soil. Once again, good drainage, a sunny position, and regular fertiliser is important. Garlic is very easy to grow. There are 2 types of garlic. We've got here elephant garlic, which is milder and larger. That's becoming more and more popular. You can get garlic from the supermarket obviously, but they do treat it with an anti-sprouting agent, so the garlic in the supermarkets doesn't actually grow in your garden. Right.
And of course shallots, are they a smaller onion, or are they special in their own way?
They're a smaller, sweeter onion. They use them a lot in soups and stews and some of the French dishes. Shallots are popular.
Splendid. Splendid. Any particular fertiliser needed for them?
No, you'd want something like blood and bone, because you're not encouraging flowering, you're just encouraging good leaf and bulb growth. So blood and bone would be fine.
Terra Viva Home and Garden. Phone 358 5565 and you'll find them on the corner of Roydevale Ave and Wairaki Road. They're open 7 days, 8:30 till 5 p.m.
Welcome back to City Life. We'll now see an interview that Kenita recorded earlier in the week, and it's with Laura Jones and Brent Skirton, and they're from the New Zealand AIDS Foundation.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you. Glad to be
Now,
here.
you've had to move since the quake. Tell me about that.
Yes, just unfortunately our building was no longer habitable for a building, so we've now moved to Winton Street in St. Albans, 54A. Winton Street is our new address, and we're up and running again and able to provide our full complement of services, counselling, testing for HIV.
Great, so you can still provide those services
Yes.
now at your new premises. Let's look at some of the services that you do offer at the New Zealand AIDS Foundation. Brent.
Well, I think the 2 key things is we provide free, anonymous rapid testing for HIV, but also for any of the STIs, and also we provide counselling for any of the at-risk groups and also for people who are positive and their family and friends. When I say the at-risk group, the key group here is gay and bisexual men.
Okay.
So, and that can be counselling about any of their issues on the understanding that whatever helps them feel good about themselves and each other will motivate them to keep themselves safe.
Okay. So this is for anybody to come in and just...
Yes, they can just ring and make an appointment.
Wow. Yes.
And it's a very simple process, hopefully a friendly process, and of course it's completely confidential.
Tell me about the test, because it is faster than I thought it would actually be. Tell me about that.
It simply involves a little finger prick, and we take a sample of blood, and it's put into something a little bit like a test for diabetics, and it flushes the blood through, and if it's positive, it'll come up as a line across the test.
So that's quite a fast result.
Very fast result.
Yeah.
We ask some questions in the process as well, so we can monitor behaviour and what's going on out there. That's for our campaigns, and so we can know what's going on as well.
If it is a positive result, do you act on that counselling right away?
We do. Obviously, that we suddenly kick into full gear and we put people into access the hospital services as well, so we can monitor what progress the virus might have in their system and so on, what medical treatment might be needed and so on.
Okay, now Laura, let's just look at some of these people that are coming into the clinic.
Sure.
Do they, when they're coming in to get these tests done, do they have a feeling that maybe they might be infected?
Every individual is different. Some people might have engaged in activities that they think have put them at risk, so they'll have a higher sense of anxiety or concern about it, or know that somebody that they have been intimate with has contracted HIV, so they know that they're at greater risk. Other people are doing it as more of a general health check, just taking care of themselves, taking care of their bodies, and they come in, frequently people who are continually using condoms and lube on a regular basis, but this is a reminder that they are doing the right things. Like Brent said, we provide a friendly service, and part of it is a conversation, and so part of the process can be reminding them that they are doing all the right things, that they're protecting themselves, they're protecting their partners, and it can be a very positive experience. So it really depends on the individual, but we do our best to provide a friendly and warm and welcoming environment, and it is, Brent said, confidential. It can also be anonymous. We don't have to actually know your name, so it is capable of being an anonymous service as well.
Let's look at some of the statistics from last year. Are these concerning?
Most definitely concerning, and last year was our highest number of gay and bisexual men recorded being HIV positive, and these are just the people that we know that they're positive. Part of the reason we push for testing is you can't tell by looking at somebody if they're HIV positive, so the only way to know is through a test. So, and if you don't know, then you're not protecting yourself and not protecting your partners.
So have these rates soared compared to other years?
Last year was the worst ever in New Zealand for gay and bisexual men. There was a slight, or a steep dropping off actually amongst heterosexuals. But I mean, I'm 58. I'm of the generation that have come right through this epidemic, and so it's really sad to see this late in the piece that we should have more infections than any other year last year.
Yeah, unfortunately, the trend is a steady increase. I wouldn't quite say soar, but it is a steady increase. And one of our goals as an agency is to slow that increase and to provide services for people living with HIV.
So how can we drop the numbers? What do people need to do?
Well, condom and lube is always going to ensure that people will not contract the virus if they use that for penetrative sex, vaginal or particularly anal sex. So that's the key thing. But also testing constantly. I myself, as a gay man, test every 6 months, and for any sexually active gay or bisexual man, we would recommend that they test at least twice a year. Okay. Just as a regular pattern.
Yes. Is that the only advice you'd sort of say to anybody? You know, protect yourself and get tested?
That's the basic, the starter advice. If you come in to talk with us, then there's more nuanced conversations, but they're more nuanced and individual and difficult to tease out in this kind of interview situation. But really the key messages as an agency are get tested and use condoms and lube to protect yourself and protect your partners.
Okay, and I guess it's a comfortable environment to come into and, you know, get counselling from.
Yes.
How can we get in touch with you? Website?
The website, yeah. It's just nzaf.org.nz.
Okay.
And then, do you want our phone number?
Yeah, phone number.
Our phone number is 03-379-1953.
And it's the same number from
We've
before you
kept the
moved?
same number, and when
Okay.
we move to our permanent premises, we should also be able to keep the same number.
When are you moving?
We don't know yet. And
Okay.
like most of Christchurch, we're waiting for multiple things to fall into place.
Okay, so that's nzaf.org.nz.
.nz.
Okay, thank
Yes.
you both for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to City Life. My guest now is David Ching, a man I've known for a wee while, I've got to tell you, but didn't realise his role with New Zealand Foundation for Conductive Education. David, can you just firstly start the philosophy of the conductive education?
Yeah, well, conductive education is a program developed to work with children that have motor disorders. Motor disorders, conditions like cerebral palsy, spina bifida. And it's a program that aims to increase these kids their level of independence and help to make their lives just that much better.
Now, you've had a long association with education. Is this one of the most difficult tasks you've taken on?
It's probably one of the most rewarding in seeing what can be done with these kids, who many of whom are quite profoundly disabled. I got involved while principal at Addington School when a group of parents visited one time way back in 1996 and suggested or asked if our school would be willing to take on a unit for physically disabled children and with a conductive education program.
So how far spread is it? It's a national organisation, isn't it?
It's a program that developed in Hungary way back in the 1930s. One Professor Peto, who was an educator and a physician, he developed the program. He worked on the assumption that people with motor disorders, where the parts of their brain that were damaged are the parts that make your bits and pieces work, your arms, legs, speech, all of those sorts of things, that with repetition and various skills and practice, undamaged parts of the brain could be retrained to compensate for the parts that were damaged.
Are a lot of them birth defects or are they accidents? What are they?
Well, motor disorder can come in two stages in life. It can be at birth, as in conditions like cerebral palsy and spina bifida. Probably cerebral palsy is the most common condition of children we have in our units, or it can be a condition that is acquired in later life, after a stroke, for example, or a person with head injuries, even Parkinson's disease. The program can help people with Parkinson's disease.
What age range are we talking about, David?
Well, if we just take Christchurch as an example, there are 3 centres here in Christchurch. There is one centre for children of preschool age, from babies from virtually 6 months up to age 6. And then we have a centre which is part of Addington Primary School that caters for children of primary school age. And then at Cashmere High School there's a centre for children of secondary school age, and they stay there until age 21.
It must be rewarding. You obviously see huge development with these pupils.
Yes, it's extremely rewarding when you have a child of 11 or 12 who walks for the first time. That's a pretty tremendous sort of feeling.
Emotional too.
Yes.
How's it funded, David?
Well, the units, according to where they're sited and the situation that they're in, are funded in different ways. For example, the units that are based in schools, and throughout New Zealand there are 4 of those, 2 being in Christchurch, 1 in Hamilton and 1 in Wellington. They're funded by the Ministry of Education. And then we have the standalone preschool age units that are all funded by health, and some funded by education as well, if they are also early childhood centres.
Fascinating, but how do parents get a hold of you? How do they make contact initially?
Well, this is one of the issues for conductive education here in New Zealand, is making people aware of our program and making people aware of what we have actually got to offer. We have a website, conductive-education.org.nz, with details of our program and some videos that people can watch. Getting established with a new program like this in a country is a long process, and many people who come to our programs have found out, virtually by accident, talking to somebody whose child has come through the system, and because it's a program that's come from overseas, it's some parts of the health system don't really point parents in our direction, so it is an issue for us.
Is there a parental support group set up already where you can feed that information in?
Yes, probably it's fair to say that the units here in New Zealand, in virtually all cases, have developed as a result of parental pressure. The first units in New Zealand were a result of some parents seeing about the program at the Peto Institute in Hungary and taking their children across to Hungary to access the program, being really thrilled with what it had done for their children, and they came back to New Zealand and opened a first centre here in New Zealand. And the people who run the program are, in virtually all cases, are Hungarians. We bring them over from Hungary. Peto Institute in Budapest is one of only 2 training sources in the world. Also, conductors are trained at Birmingham University in England. But it's a very, very extensive 4-year course for these people. They're very, very skilled professionals. They provide a program that's a bit like a holistic program. It's education, it's speech therapists, occupational therapists.
Wonderful. Website again?
conductive-education.org.nz.
David Ching, real pleasure to have had David on City Life today.
My guest today is Roddy McKinnon from Canterbury Christian Funerals. Hi, Roddy.
How are you doing there?
Pretty well, thank you. Now, how have funerals changed over the last 50 years?
I've only been around for the last 34, so I can only speak to that, but there's been, anecdotally, there is a lot of changes. Not in the substance. We still have the componentry is all the same.
Yeah.
We have the grieving family. There's a funeral professional of some description,
yes,
often a minister or a celebrant, and there's an event. So the core substance of funeral is the same. But what we're finding is that as society is, I hesitate to use the word relaxed, but as we've changed sort of our rules, the way we behave, particularly in public, particularly with the young people, we're seeing a different type of funeral than perhaps my parents or my grandparents would have experienced.
Yes.
And it's not uncommon for older folk to say that they didn't start going to funerals until they were adults.
Exactly. I know in my own case, my grandmother died when I was 12, and I wasn't allowed to go to the funeral. The boy doesn't need to be here. So
absolutely,
that was my first experience. This event was happening.
And that's what we're finding, is that nowadays that children are an integral part of the funeral landscape, as it were. That a lot of what we do in funerals, one of the reasons why funerals have become significantly longer in the actual length of the service, is that people like grandchildren, nieces, nephews, the younger folk are taking not only ownership of the event, but they're being an integral part of it. They're there delivering eulogies, they're reading poems, they're singing songs. Often it's less of a sense of one individual in a casket and a minister now, or a celebrant. It's that sense that the community's pulling together. And I think, as a funeral director, it's great because it adds variety and spice, and some of the best moments that we've seen at funerals have come from the youngest members of the congregation, as it were. And I think also, if we are being practical about it from a psychological perspective, excluding children from the realities of death and loss and grief and pain by taking them away from the funeral is not that practical, in the sense that there's no framework for them to go forward. I hate using the word, it's a little bit new age, but there's no sense of closure for them, whereas a funeral's quite important for us adults.
Yes.
We're there to see that, make our final respects, say goodbye. The question I've always had in my mind is, why did we historically exclude children? What were we sheltering them from?
Exactly.
And I'm not even sure we were. And so it's that's one of the key changes for us.
It's part of the cycle, isn't it?
I think so, and the pendulum may swing the other way.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. We're getting to the point now where funeral services are regularly touching the hour mark, just for the time that the family wish to speak for eulogies, and that obviously it puts pressure on facilities. Some of the facilities that we use in town are used by multiple companies many times a day. The longer funerals get, then there's going to be a layer of cost incurred because people are involved longer, facilities are in use longer, those sorts of things. So perhaps we'll see a swing the other way, and it might be a financial pressure that pushes it back or it starts to cut it down. But I don't think we're going to see a change back to the bad old days, the good old days, whatever you want to call it, where children were pushed into the background and seen and were not heard. I think we're past that. Society doesn't accept that anymore, and so we need to engage them more.
There's still a structure, isn't there, Roddy? I mean, the old structure was it was a very a solemn occasion, but the hearse then left the church and there was a procession. You don't see that today.
Not so much. There's still the traditional funeral,
yes.
And it depends particularly who's involved. But I think more what we're seeing is that if we're not careful, we'll lose the solemnity of it,
yes,
because someone has died. And we talk a lot about it being a celebration of life now. If you read a lot of the front of the service sheets or I hesitate to call them hymn sheets because a lot of times there's no hymns in them, but the order of service, it'll be a celebration of the life of, or a joyous day to remember. And I think that's the way we're approaching it now. A funeral is less the interment side of things, less the hearse, procession, grave or crematorium.
Yeah.
It's more about who was this individual and why were they significant and special. And perhaps it's also a reflection that nowadays, particularly, well, my generation and the one that's following me, we are very, I hesitate to use the word articulate because I don't think we're any more articulate than we ever were, but we're definitely more forward in putting our views.
We're happy to get up and be part of the
absolutely.
service.
We've lost that sort of reticence that was almost the oh shucks Kiwi way, where you didn't say anything unless you were forced to.
And somebody did it for you.
Absolutely. And nowadays you've got everybody is keen to be involved. And speak about the person they've lost and they've loved. And that's important. I think that's what the function of a funeral is to allow that expression of love and loss. I would hate to see it become to some sort of pageant, because at the end of the day, there's still, the core of it is grief.
Exactly.
And bereavement and going through that process. And so, like I say, I think there's a pendulum here, and maybe we've swung a long way. As long as we maintain the dignity, I think that's the word I'm looking for. If we maintain the dignity for the deceased,
exactly,
then it doesn't matter how long they get or who we engage or who we involve or how much is said or what is done.
Sure. Roddy, we'll talk some more about this.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be good to come back.
Thank you.
You're back with City Life, and time now to talk about a subject very close to my heart, as you can tell by looking at me. We've got our fitness guru back with us, and Bevan Isles, what are we going to chat about today, mate?
Well, today we're going to talk about the concept of goal setting. It's kind of a really big area, and there's lots of information out there, and in some ways I think that sometimes the information gets out there stops people from actually doing it. And I'll give an example of why I think this is important. I think the idea of goal setting is that you should be figuring out the way that works for you. That, what is Pete's way of setting goals that's going to make you successful?
So it is an individual thing, isn't it?
I really think it is, and I think it's something that you need to evolve. Like, it's interesting, I did an interview, a triathlon guy called Alistair Brownlee, who's currently like the best guy in the world. I interviewed him the other day, and I said, how do you go about setting goals? And he goes, I don't write them down or anything, I just kind of in my head I put them in place. Now, this guy is a freak of nature athlete.
I love him,
Yeah, and an amazing athlete, and he doesn't write goals down. And if you ever read a self-help book, they say you must write goals down and you must do this, that, and SMART goals and all the rest of it. And when it comes to goal setting, it's really about learning the way that you become successful. So you can either go back to your previous times and see, well, what did I do in the past when I was successful? What are some of the things I did that led me to be successful in that time? And then how can I duplicate that so that I can be successful again? And so the key is that there's not one way, there's your way. And what we're trying to do with goal setting is we're trying to figure out what's a process that works for me, and then how can I evolve that so it becomes better and better and better?
Two questions leap into my mind right from the start. How does somebody in a team sport scenario, do they still set their own individual goals?
Yeah, I totally think they do. So I think if you've got a team sport environment, you've got the leaders of the group. So you've got your coach, your captain, and they are
who will set some goals anyway.
Yeah, and if anything, they're trying to create culture. They're trying to create the rules, the kind of subconscious rules of the group, how we behave as a team. decisions you'll make on the
The
field.
culture, which is the modern word, isn't it?
Yeah, they really are. And they determine what kind of an environment they create around it that is really important. Then you go away from that and you go, okay, where's my skill set and where does that fit within this team? So you might be a prop and you go, okay, my skill set is to get to the ruck and clear the ball and to, you know, be really good in scrums. That's lifting in the lineup. Okay, where am I weak in my skill set? Okay, well, maybe my scrums aren't sharp, so where can I set some goals around that? So you look at, okay, my culture of my team and the people who influence that will probably be creating that for you. And then you look at where am I within this, okay? And what do they ultimately want me to bring to this in this position?
Would you take those goals then back to your coach and say, this is what I've set for myself personally?
Yeah, so you could use them as that mentor role because they could actually say, well, you know what, your scrumming is good enough. I'd rather you be, you know...
You're off target, you know, with what you're thinking.
Yeah, and so that guidance is a really important thing. But then what you want to do is go away and go, okay, well, how can I set some targets around that? They're going to work for me because I think, you know, we say to people you should write down your goals and there's proof to say that if you do, there's 33% chance more that you achieve them. So it does work, but it doesn't work for everybody.
Bevan, can they get cluttered though? Can they get too many goals? Can they overload themselves?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that in life you should only be trying to achieve 3 things.
Yeah.
You know, if you're trying to achieve 15 things, something's going to fail. And if you're trying to achieve so many things and something's failing, what are you going to feel like? You're going to feel like a failure. Yeah. Whereas if you go, okay, well, I can be really good at 3 things. I can be a great rugby player, I can be great in business, and I've been great at home.
Next thing, how often should you clear those out and reset the goals?
So, my kind of thinking is short term.
Yeah.
I know people are talking about the BHAG, the big, hairy, audacious goal, which is...
The what?
It's
the big, hairy what?
Audacious goal, yeah. And the thing with that is that it is good to have a vision that you're going towards, but I think that realistically, if you think short term, what can you achieve in the next 3 months, then you can actually think of realistic steps you can take today. Whereas if you think, okay, well, I want to run a marathon in 2 years from now, well, what do you do today towards that? Well, then you go, well, in 3 months, I can try to run 5Ks. Okay, what's the step I can do today? Well, I can get out the door and go for a walk, or I can do a 500-metre run. And it breaks it down to smaller chunks. And the key to goal setting is to believe that you can be successful. Right. And if you can create smaller chunks, they're easier to bite, which are easier to be successful in.
Yeah. So the first time you put crampons on, you're not going to climb Mount Everest, are you?
No. And I know this is a really simple message, but we don't do the process because we think too big picture. You know, we think, I've got to do this big, hairy, audacious goal, and we don't do it because mentally it's quite challenging. Whereas if we can set a realistic target based on what you know about yourself from times when you've been successful, well then you're going to set those more realistic chunks, which is going to lead to more success.
Bevan, refreshing talking to you, isn't it? And it sounds so simple. We should all set goals, whether it's for sport or life, really. So Bevan, thanks for coming in, mate.
No worries, mate.
Good. Finally on the program, it's time to find out what's hot at the movies. And John Hunter knows from Rialto, that's for sure. But John, just before we get into that, what theatres are actually open?
We've got the 2 Hoyts, that's Riccarton and Northlands, which is good. We've got Cinema 3 in Hornby. But the others, well, Sumner took a bit of a hit last Monday. We were waiting for him to sort of come back.
And Rialto?
Rialto, well, that's the big question, and I'm waiting to hear about that.
All right. Well, we need to be brightened up and cheered up a bit. First one we're going to have a look at is a comedy.
Yes.
It's Bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids. This is about a group of women. Centres on Annie. She's broke. She's out of love and all that sort of thing. She needs to be loved up. She gets a group of women together and they head off into this this bridesmaid sort of organising a wedding. So it looks really good. Should we go to the trailer?
Going along with your life and you look around and you notice like, oh, I am in my 30s, I have $40,000 in debt, I live with a weirdo. You do have a super creepy roommate. You read my diary?
At first, I did not know that it was your diary. I thought it was a very sad, handwritten book.
A lot of people, I think, find themselves in their 30s of like, I don't know what am I supposed to be doing with my life. I'm engaged.
Oh my God! He asked me last night. What is happening?
When her best friend Lillian gets married, I think that's why it hits her. You'll be my maid of honor.
Of course! Let's go say hi to the rest of the bridal party.
You have to punch it a couple times.
Lillian is the best friend to Annie all these years. Very quickly, she starts this whirlwind journey into getting married. You'll love the rest of the bridesmaids.
You're so pretty.
So cute! Did you come from work?
So you're immediately introduced to all of the other people in her life.
I'd be more than happy to handle the bachelorette and the shower. I think I can handle it.
Annie, what is this place?
Oh, look, you can get a check cash next door.
When you have a bridal party, it's going to be across the board a bit of a motley crew of women. What other situation would you all be thrown together?
Helen, aren't you eating any meat?
It's not good to eat a big meal before a fitting.
This is some classy I want to apologize. I'm not even confident of which end that came out of.
There are those moments of, gross out.
You got food poisoning from that restaurant. No.
But you care about what happens to the characters.
Everybody, go outside.
Be careful! We all get the flu. It's such a coincidence.
6 funny, strange, quirky characters that are all real.
I feel like her life is going off and getting perfect, and mine's just like...
I don't think you want any help. I think you want to have a little pity party.
Oh.
I'm life, huh? Oh, Megan! Life bothering you? I'm your life, Annie. I'm life, and I'm gonna bite you in the ass.
We just wanted to tell like that real story of what it's like to be in a wedding. You're gonna take this here.
Playing now, John?
That's playing now, Pete.
Looks great.
It does. It looks it looks really funny, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All the crew tell me, I didn't see it, but Cars 1, they say, is brilliant. Cars 2 is out.
Cars 2 starts on Thursday. So this again stars Owen Wilson as Lightning McQueen, and his pal Mater are in it. And this time they head overseas to the World Grand Prix. It has voiceovers by Michael Caine, and including Lewis Hamilton, Cheech Marin and Helen Redgrave. So a real sort of different cast here.
Real mixture. Let's have a look at the trailer.
Brilliant.
How'd you like to come and see the world with me?
You mean it?
It is my absolute honor to introduce to you the first ever World Grand Prix.
Woo-hoo! Go McQueen! Oh, that's funny right there.
Lightning McQueen!
See you at the race.
Yes, you will see, Francesco. Like this. He is so getting beat tomorrow.
These Americans are clearly master spies.
Excuse me, ma'am.
This cannot be him.
Is he American?
Look out, ladies. Mater's fitting to get funky.
Extremely.
Then it's him. Finn McMissile, British intelligence.
Cole Mater, average intelligence.
McQueen and Francesco duel for that inside line as they head toward the first turn.
Lightning McQueen cannot win the race.
Instead of saying ka-chow, he's gonna go kaboom!
McQueen needs your help, Mater.
You know I'm just a tow truck.
It's his cover.
Brilliant.
Am I missing something?
No one realizes they're being fooled because they're too busy laughing at the fool.
Is that how you see me?
That's how everyone sees you. Isn't that the idea?
Mater! I'm sticking by you the way you always stick by me!
Ready?
Is the Pope Mobile Catholic?
Don't you credo?
You gotta be kidding me.
You might think I'm crazy. Hang around with me.
It's the American spy!
Hang on!
Now or never!
Gatling gun. Request acknowledged.
Shoot, I didn't mean
Request
it.
acknowledged.
I didn't mean that kind of shoot.
Deploying.
What else is playing at the moment, John?
Well, started last Thursday, we have the movie Conspirator. Now, this is a movie by Robert Redford. Unfortunately, we didn't have a trailer for this. This stars James McAvoy. It's about Lincoln's death or his assassination. So set in the late 19th century, just after the American Civil War. I've seen the movie. It's a factual drama. It looks pretty good. Now, this is only showing at one theatre at the moment. It's showing at Hoyts Northlands.
Right. Okay. Probably time to take the squeeze out, isn't it, for an evening? Just go and have a movie.
Just go and have a movie. Just go and enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Great, John. Great to have you. Well, that wraps up the program for today. Now, if you want to contact us, don't forget kanita@citylife.co.nz. You can call us 3777 033. You can write to us at PO Box 1100 Christchurch. We love the feedback. Just keep it coming. Okay, that's City Life for today.